I think with John Horst, it's all about how can we maximize our opportunity to win now, and let's worry about the future when it comes.
Last time you were on, I asked you at the very end, we had you on for a Packers adjacent thing when Jair Alexander got released. And at the end, I was like, by the way, do you think anything's going to happen with this Giannis story? And you were basically like, I don't know why everyone keeps talking about this. Giannis is staying. And boy, were you right about that, Greg. In terms, we've now seen them clearly try to build around Giannis. The moves they're making are to compete right now. What do you make of the decision to waive and stretch Damian Lillard, put themselves at a somewhat disadvantage over the next 5 years, obviously, as they'll have that $20 million cap hit, but it allows them to make moves right now they couldn't otherwise, including signing Myles Turner?
Really interesting move and kind of an unprecedented move in how far they're stretching this out in over $100 million of Lillard's contract. So he's going to get paid, but he's essentially getting paid to go away. But you're either going to pay Lillard $49 million to not play next season because of his Achilles injury, or waive him, stretch out the payments over the course of 5 years, and then free up, roughly $25, $26 million to use on somebody else, or maybe a number of players. Well, in finding Myles Turner at a fairly reasonable price, they get quite a bit younger, almost 10 years younger than Brook Lopez, 40% three-point shooter. Playing on a team with Giannis, you're going to shoot the three, you're going to have opportunities, and likely not have a lot of those threes be contested. And he's a guy who's, quite honestly, been kind of a pain in the Bucks' butt over the last couple of years. He's a good player, a fringe all-star player. So they backfill Lopez, they bring in some length. Giannis will only play center if he has to, and in certain rotations and lineups. They bring back Bobby Portis as well, who not quite the defender, but some instant offense off the bench. So I kind of like what they've done here in the front court. And then, re-signing the players who sort of made sense, who are a little younger, good role players who can also knock down open shots. And in the case of Kevin Porter Jr., maybe be your starting point guard on day one. Going to be interesting to see what happens here the rest of free agency. But you're looking at Porter and likely having to find some depth at the point guard position. But you're paying Lillard to go away instead of paying him $49 million to sit on the bench and rehab.
Do you think they make these moves if Jason Tatum is able to play next year for the Celtics and Tyrese Halliburton is able to play next year for the Pacers? And we can take out of the equation of would the Pacers have been more aggressive in re-signing Turner, just merely the availability of extra competitiveness in the Eastern Conference.
Yes, I do, because there's a filter. There's a filter that John Horst pours every bit of NBA transactional liquid down, and that is called the Giannis filter. And the Giannis filter suggests basically this: will this move help us keep Giannis? If the answer is yes, the move is made, or at least an attempt to make that move is made. If the answer to that question is no, the move is not made. And it's a very simple filter, but holding on to Dame when you know he can't play for a year and paying him nearly $50 million, that doesn't make the Bucks better, really, in any way. Letting Brook Lopez walk, I think people saw that happening. He's getting closer to 40 years old and was a key part of a Bucks championship run. But they had to get younger. They had to find a way to get a little more athletic and also not sacrifice quality in any way. So in the last couple of years, they've moved on from aging veterans. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez. In some way, shape, or form, that made up a big three or big four, including Giannis, from a team that won a title. And now all of those pieces are gone with the exception of Giannis, the guy they had to keep. And John Horst was hell-bent on keeping Giannis in Milwaukee.
Greg Matzek, the sports director at WTMJ in Milwaukee, is with us here on the Hoffman Show. Greg, do you think there is a chance that they regret a year from now just saying, man, we should have just eaten it in 2025, 26, and maybe we could have traded Dame, gotten off all the money, and then had clean slate in terms of what his contract will count moving forward? Or is the risk too high because of the Giannis filter that you just talked about?
Yeah, I think with John Horst, it's all about how can we maximize our opportunity to win now, and let's worry about the future when it comes. And I think evidence of that are just the litany of draft picks the Bucks have traded over the years. And some have worked, by the way. Some of those trades have worked out. Others have not. Right? They traded 3 second-rounders for Jay Crowder. That didn't work out very well. But what the heck does Giannis care about second-round draft picks. He doesn't. We got to win now. Let's find somebody with experience who's played in NBA Finals games before. Again, it didn't work out with Crowder, but that was part of the filter that I bring up again. Will it help us keep Giannis? Does it help put us toward a goal of winning a championship? That window is open as long as Giannis is in a Bucks uniform. So you can't convince him that we just need to wait. We need to wait and be patient here. That likely makes it more difficult to keep Giannis. So it's all about the here and the now with this current general manager and his assistants.
So there was the Giannis social media post earlier today that seemed like he was like, I don't know what's going on. And then there was pretty soon after a Chris Haynes report that he is not happy with the Damian Lillard decision. Do you buy any of that? And what do you make of the social media post? By the way, yes, I do hate myself for asking you this question, but it's one that I'm sure people are wondering. So Sports Talk Radio in 2025, it is what it is.
It's kind of a choose-your-own-adventure day if you're a Bucks fan, right? So Chris Haynes says Giannis is upset with how things went down, and there's another report that says Giannis and Myles Turner have been in contact and love the opportunity to work together toward building a championship team. So it take whatever you want, however you want it. But let me say this. Giannis can be a little annoyed at how things went down with Lillard, but not be annoyed that he's not part of the team. Right? I mean, you can look at it two different ways, I suppose. But, Giannis wasn't happy when Jason Kidd got fired, and the Bucks won a title a couple years after that. Things happen in this league, and Giannis doesn't just sit on the sidelines and wait for things to happen. I think he is actively involved in discussions with the Bucks on certain things. And maybe he didn't see this one coming with Dame, but if it's all about protecting your mega superstar, and that's exactly what John Horst wants to do, sometimes tough decisions need to be made. And the Dame thing didn't work out. It likely could have, maybe, if he, is healthy and going into his third season in the Bucks uniform. But there's no guarantee he wants to stay in Milwaukee after that season. So whether Giannis is annoyed, frustrated, I don't think that really matters. I think what matters is he's going to be a part of this team next year, and you try and point your arrows in the right direction.
Greg Matzek with us here on the Hoffman Show. So, Greg, you highlighted or touched on this a little bit earlier in this chat, but what do the Bucks need to do now in your mind to become legit contenders in the East, or are they pretty much already there considering the state of the East?
Well, yeah, the state of the East is kind of odd, just given the star appeal that is down. And I guess you could include Lillard in that mix because he's not going off to, Miami or another potential contender to play next season. It's going to be at least a year, and then, he'll get to choose his own adventure, likely. But with Halliburton down and out and Brown down and out, Indiana gets hit a little more now, losing Turner. The East has never really been so wide open. A team like the Knicks are probably looking at it saying, look, we got the best shot here. And they might, as we sit here on July 1st. So I think the East is wide open for the taking. A team like Orlando becomes interesting. But I do think more teams will have those thoughts of coming out of the East and going to the finals than in previous years. So I'm wondering about the point guard position here for the Bucks because it's not a ton of depth beyond Kevin Porter Jr., who's, today your starter at point guard and a capable scorer. So they got to find a way to build some depth there. They've got shooting coming back with Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince. These guys are going to hit over 40% of their threes. Turner's kind of in that mold too. Play with Giannis and you're a three-point shooter, you're likely to have one of your better years shooting with the way he spaces the floor and the way teams collapse on him. But to make sure you've got enough depth, I think front court depth is good. Back court depth, I think, needs to be figured out.
Last but not least, the local angle for us, if you will. Obviously, there was the Kuzma trade last year, and he continued to be disappointing when he left Washington and went to Milwaukee. He just had a disappointing 2024, 2025. How high are your hopes that he can turn it around in year two with Milwaukee going into a season where he knows a contender needs him?
Not very high. I think he is what he is at this point, and that's an uber-athletic, capable 20-point scorer who is routinely inefficient and occasionally makes your head bleed because he throws up shots that go off the side of the backboard and can't finish a layup, right? I mean, he has those nights. You saw it. It's like, well, what in the world? Like, he's got all the skills to be everything. And sometimes that comes together. But it's never efficient. Sometimes it just doesn't look right, and you scratch your heads wondering, just how many years he's played competitive basketball. But I think he's a guy that you're going to have to work with, and he'll be a part of things. He'll get minutes, and he can defend. But there's just wild inconsistency with his game, and that's kind of been his story from the start.
Yeah, the inconsistency is definitely a part of the Kyle Kuzma experience, and the Bucks are hoping to get the high end more often next season. Greg Matzek talking about all of it on WTMJ, where he is the sports director. Great station in Milwaukee. Greg, thanks for the time as always, and have a great summer if we don't talk to you. And we'll talk to you next time there's a Bucks or Packers story, and there seems to be one on a regular basis. So we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Sounds good. Stay dry out there.
We'll do our best. Thanks. That's Greg Matzek with us here on The Hoffman Show.
This is The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.